Inside Hilltopper Athletics is brought to you by Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration. Here's your host, Lynn Ullum.
Welcome to Inside Hilltopper Athletics. This is almost a Christmas edition as finals are over and the general student body's back at home, but our basketball teams are still on campus. And Coach, this is going to be a fun conversation because you had what appeared to be on the calendar maybe your most challenging week when you look at playing Charleston on the road and undefeated West Virginia State team at home, and we're sitting here still unbeaten.
Yeah, it was a challenging week to say the least, and really proud of how our guys responded. I thought we got two very quality wins, first on the road versus Charleston, and never an easy place to play like we talked about in the previous episode, and just really proud of how we responded to some things that didn't go our way, but our guys just kept fighting, and then obviously got a really big win here on Saturday versus National Power in West Virginia State.
Well, first, let's start with the Charleston game. We traveled to the state's capital on Wednesday night. Although Charleston with McManus, who we're glad that he's not around anymore because he was a very difficult matchup, but Charleston's always going to be a well-coached team. They play a style that has been a little difficult for us, wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about that game, starting with a little bit of a slow start.
Yeah, got up to a slow start, but our guys never blinked. Like they were locked in from shoot around, and I think they knew going in it was going to be a big game, and I think it's still going to pay dividends later on down the road because they're going to win a lot of games. I think they're still trying to find themselves at Charleston right now, and I know though Dwayne will get them headed in the right direction. But again, I thought our guys played a really good second half, and we extended the lead, and we never took our foot off the gas pedal, which was fun to see, and had different guys step up. I thought Mike Sampson really gave us a big lift off the bench, and he's been seeing extended minutes these past couple games, and I'm hoping that he can continue to be a better player.
Yeah, and I don't think your average person understands, especially defensively, this is not an easy system to step in and know exactly what you're doing at all times.
Yeah, it takes time, and that's kind of the message that we relate to these recruits, especially the transfers. And most of the times they're coming in at the different end of the spectrum. They're more of a slow-down team, and our system is really hard to play, and it takes a lot of effort, and guys don't know the type of effort they have to give until they actually get here. And then they play a couple practices, and they're like, holy cow, this is really hard. And but they're still learning. Our new guys are still learning, and but they're starting to get the hang of it, and hopefully they can continue to get better.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Bryce Butler. And again, I'll reiterate on this show, this isn't individual driven. I don't want this podcast to ever get into we just talk about individual players all the time, because basketball is a team sport, and we've had the success that your program's enjoyed because it's a team sport. But he is on a roll. Down at Charleston, again, when we got out of the gate, a little slow and was actually down, I think, 25-23. Bryce scored 21 points in the first half.
Yeah, he's I just keep saying it, like, he's just a really good player, but he does everything the right way. So it was funny, like, post-game of our West Virginia State game, jumping ahead of game, but he could barely walk into the post-game press conference. Like he was just so beat up, and he lays his body out on the line for the team, and he does all the little things that don't even show up in the box score. So you look at the box score at the end of the game, and he's filled it up in each individual statistical category, but he also does the little things. He dives on the floor for loose balls. He keeps the ball alive on rebounds, and he takes charges. He guards the other team's big guys. He guards the other team's guards. Like, he just does a little bit of everything, and it's really fun to see him, like, do this because he's kind of worked his way into this mold. He was here as a freshman and played some off the bench, which is really good for a freshman. That he last year he was, he was a good player and conference player of the year, but this year I think he's taken it to a whole nother level, and we're going to continue to lean on him, and hopefully he can continue to carry us.
Yeah, I would say he's definitely taken it to another level. So he has 21 in the first half. I think Ben Sarson hit some threes, had a big first half scoring-wise. And then the second half, it was just a team component.
Yeah.
We just absolutely wore them down.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to put it. Is we wore them down, and they started turning the ball over, and we started to capitalize at the other end and got some easy baskets. And like you said, we had some guys make some threes, and Zach Russell came. Even though he didn't score a lot of points, I thought he was really tough, and he played very good defense, and he's done that for the majority of his career here.
Yeah, and which is such a pleasant surprise. And I don't want to say we didn't expect him to play defense when he get here, but when you're one of the state of Ohio's all-time leading scorers and 3-point, is he still the state leader ever in 3 points? But he's actually been really good defensively. So you capitalized on the steals, blew it out to a 20-point lead, kind of coasted in, but you knew there was no time to sit back and rest and talk about how good you are, because you were really going to be tested with West Virginia State. So give me kind of your thoughts coming into that game.
Well, going in, we knew it was going to be a big game. They're nationally ranked and obviously playing very well. And we got the news that Anthony Pittman, who hasn't played the entire season, was going to be back for our game. So I think, and I said this post game, still a sour taste in our mouth from last year, the way we ended last season in the NCAA tournament. And I think our 7 returning players still felt it too. So I know they wanted to come out here and get a win, but we knew it was going to be the exact type of game that it was. It was tough. It was a physical game, one of the more physical games that we've seen here, and there was nothing easy about it. Every shot was challenged. Every loose ball had multiple guys diving on the floor, and it was a hard-fought win, but it was a good win. It's a good win that we can continue to build off of, and hopefully that can the momentum can carry on in the future.
Well, I like the words that you said, that every ball was fought for and every drive was contested, and remember, not only did I coach in 800, but I've watched our men play 800 times on all those double headers, and that game just had a little bit of extra oomph. Every shot, every play, it was like both teams realized we're playing for something here tonight, that this game is going to have implications. And I do agree with the physicality, and I want to clarify to anybody out there watching, when we talk about the game being physical, we're not saying that the refereeing was bad. It was called a certain way, which was consistent, which we all want. But there were no bailout on shooters in this game.
No, they let you play, and I think that's what you want. Like as in a big game like this with serious meaning on it, that's what you want. You don't want the officials to dictate. Let the players dictate the outcome of the game. And again, everything was fought for, and just a lot of. As a coaching staff, I know we were like dead tired after the game, and we didn't even play. And furthermore on that, like I thought the crowd was really good, and it gave us a big boost. Our guys came in after the game, and they were talking how good the crowd was, and same with our recruits. They said this place was electric and a lot of fun to be a part of.
Yeah, and I had mentioned that on the TV broadcast a number of times. In the past, sometimes we struggle with these pre-Christmas games. People have a million things going on. They're out shopping. They're doing a million things. The students aren't even on campus. Right. But for a pre-Christmas game following finals and graduation, pretty darn good crowd.
Yeah, for sure. And it felt like an NCAA tournament atmosphere here, which that was pretty fun to play a part of. But it was one of those games where every possession matters. And if we got a steal, there's a little bit more crowd noise than normal. And if we got a tough rebound, there's a little bit more crowd noise than normal. So we certainly appreciate that from our fans.
Well, let's bring up one more point, because I want to clarify myself on this. Let's talk the flop rule a little bit. Now, I've been pretty outspoken about this. And again, it's not about any official that calls this. I'm not criticizing officials whatsoever. They're charged, pun intended, they're charged with calling it. I still think it's crazy.
It makes their job really hard. Like it's who knows if it's a flop? Like if you're a good actor, who knows if you're flopping? So again, I tend to agree with you. It's just a tough call to make, but they have to make it. That's part of their job. That's how they get evaluated, and it is what it is. I know I can't change it. Our players know they can't change it, so we're going to play through it.
Yeah, and I want to second what you talk about. I think it makes it impossible for the officials because remember, they're not calling flops where I come barreling down the lane and you bail out a second before I get there and fall on your back and we don't even make contact. They're charged with calling this even when there's contact.
Yeah.
So it's how do you judge how much a guy got displaced?
Yeah. It's tough.
And I think it's tough. So I want to clarify that is a point of emphasis, and they're charged, again, pun intended, with calling it. But, wow, it could be game-changing. And when you get in games like West Virginia State, where every possession matters, and now we're talking potential NCAA regional seeding and conference championship implications, I just think it's very, very tough. But West Liberty prevailed. Thoughts on the last possession? What did you talk about in the huddle? West Liberty gets the ball. They have the big three-point play, tie it at 89. What are you talking about in your timeout?
Well, we knew we were going to have the last shot. And I know you and I have talked about this thousands of times. We wanted to make sure we got the last shot and didn't give them a chance. So, looking back, probably went a little too early in that case. Maybe tell them to go at 8 rather than 10. But it's pretty simple. When you got a guy in the zone like Bryce, just get him the ball and everyone else get out of his way and kind of let him do his thing. And he made me look like a good coach is what he did. And, I asked him in the huddle, I said, ready to go win this? And he said, yep, and just kind of gave him the ball and he made the play. But I tell you the best part about it is his defense after the shot. We talk about this, and we've talked about it for years when I was a player, as an assistant coach, head coach. Don't celebrate. The game's not over yet. Obviously, there's still time. The time on the clock stops in the second half, so they're going to have time to get the ball out of bounds. And I thought West Virginia State played it great. They got the ball out of bounds as fast as they could and looked down court. But I thought all of our guys played pretty good defense. And the crazy thing is, from my angle, where I was sitting on the bench, when Horton shot the shot, I thought it was going in. I thought that shot's in, and luckily it rimmed out. But what a ball game.
Yeah, what a game. And I'm going to give you credit. It is hard to decide how can he generate that shot, and it's almost impossible as a former player and a coach to dictate, I'm going to shoot it with 2 seconds left or one. He got the angle that he needed. He knocks it down. But when you're playing man-to-man, it's not easy to make that shot, then find your man, then sprint back. Yeah. So Mark Crow, a friend of mine, coached here, benefactor here, he texted me and said, loved how Bryce Butler sprinted back on defense.
Yeah.
To at least contest that shot. And I haven't texted him back yet, but I do know you guys talked about that in the timeout, that miss or make, the game's not over with. We have to get back on defense.
Yeah, and it was crucial. It won us the game, and that's something that we practice. We talk about in the fall. So many games are going to come down to that last 10 seconds. We have to be good, no matter how much time is on the clock.
Well, let's finish this segment. Not a lot of time to rest here. Headed to Las Vegas. So tell us a little bit about the trip. How did it come about?
Yeah, I just actually got an email last year, and I felt, since I've been head coach, we haven't taken a trip yet, and I think these guys deserve it. That they've done everything right, and just felt like this is the right team to take over there. And the good part about it is I know our guys are approaching this like a business trip, and I hate to be cliche about things, but I want them to have fun. I want them to go out there and have fun, but I also want them to go out there with the mindset, let's go get 2 wins. Let's not go out there and be amazed by the Vegas Strip and all the lights and all the fun stuff going on. We're not out there to win. We're going out there to win. And the problem is we're playing a really good team. And I just, been watching them for the last hour. Lubbock Christian doesn't make mistakes. They're so fundamentally sound on offense. They're going to be the best offense off the ball that we played all season. So if we fall asleep, we're going to get scored on. So we got our hands full. So truthfully, I'm not having that much fun right now because I'm watching these guys every single day. But we'll try to go out there and get some wins.
We're going to finish just because we talked about it last week. And I hope your wife, Jessie, is listening. We talked about the Christmas lights last week. You went off about They were up too soon. They were before like Halloween, and I want it to be known that my wife Karen and I went out Christmas light. We like to drive and look. I went by your house. Of course, your wife's out of town. You did not have a Christmas light on.
Yeah, I don't want to have a Christmas light on when she's not in town. Then I have to turn them off. So, like, I'm one of those guys. I'd rather just be inside watching Yellowstone with the blinds shut, no lights on, because then I don't have to worry about turning them off before I go to bed. So you're right, there are no lights on, but when she's home, she's got that place booming with lights.
All right. Well, if I'm Jesse, I'm not going to be happy with
That's
that.
all right.
But hey, you do you.
Yeah,
I'll
fine.
do me.
Yeah.
Anyway, this wraps up the first segment, men's basketball with Coach Ben Hallett. Please tune in. And I do want to add one other thing. There's a paywall, correct?
Flow Sports, yes.
So you have to go into the paywall. We do not control that here at West Liberty, so don't be texting us. It's ridiculous that you got to pay to watch. We have no control. That's the organizers of the tournament. But if you get a chance, please tune in. And if not, our producer right now, Jacob Davey, he'll have complete game coverage when it's all over. We'll see you next time.
Disasters happen. Pick the team that takes care of them all. Powered by offices in Wheeling, Morgantown, and Pittsburgh, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration is ready to handle any size emergency at a moment's notice. We have the right people, knowledge, and equipment to respond 24 hours a day.
I'm Ben Hallett. When disaster strikes your home or business, tell your insurance provider you prefer the restoration company the Hilltoppers call, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration.
Inside Hilltopper Athletics is brought to you by Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration. Here's your host, Lynn Ullum.
Welcome back to the second segment of Inside Hilltopper Athletics. I'm joined by women's coach Kyle Cooper. But before we talk women's basketball, I want to clarify starting times for the men's trip to Vegas, which we talked about in the segment with Coach Hallett. If you're here at home on the Eastern Seaboard, we play at 8:30 on Saturday, 11 at night if you're watching from home. Obviously, if you're out in Vegas, it is 5:30 and 8. So hopefully that clarifies. But now let's talk a little bit of women's basketball. Coach, thanks for joining us. Challenging week, so we don't want to beat that to death, but it's our job to talk a little bit. So let's start with the trip to Charleston on Wednesday, one of the region's better teams. They had already beaten Glenville State earlier in the season. Tale of two halves. Tell us a little bit about the first half.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the first half, we looked like a team that's firing on all cylinders. And, the ball movement was incredible. We're dictating on both ends of the basketball. I thought we really did a nice job of getting them off schedule with what they want to do, which is they want to pick you apart by running a lot of different sets and attacking any kind of matchup that, Coach Kelly and her staff want to create. And I thought we got them off schedule. And in turn, we were rewarded with stops, with rebounds, and playing in transition. And it was a fun half to watch, that's for sure. Going into halftime, we knew they were going to come back at us, though, and we verbalized that as a coaching staff in a lot of different ways.
Well, I'm watching the game live, and at the half, we went up 42 to 29, correct?
Yeah, up 13, yeah.
Yeah, up 13 at the half, and I turned and looked at my wife and said, that may have been the best half of Coach Cooper's tenure since he's been here, and I would agree. Wow, did the kids play hard? Did they play smart? Now, it always helps when you're knocking down shots.
For sure.
We all know how that goes, but there's a reason that this team is a regionally ranked squad. There's a reason that they were good enough to beat Glenville in an earlier matchup. So tell us what happened in the second half.
Yeah, I think it just kind of goes into, you saw a big difference about the makeup of the teams, not only from a style of play, but from a veteran standpoint and a team that's kind of been there before. So where a lot of teams, you're down 13, and that can be kind of, the moment of I'm not going to fold. They came right back at us and started throwing punches in the game. And the reality of it is their veteran play, started to dictate things. And we weathered it at times, and while it was messy, people don't realize we still held a lead almost all the way to the end of the third. So we were absorbing a lot of it, but just couldn't get back in rhythm. They started getting back on schedule. They started making some plays, and in turn their playmakers and their veterans and their game breakers, if you will, started to get going. And that carried over to the fourth. We got some things not traditionally the way we want to attack things, like the pressure they threw at us and so on, and everything started to compound. But overall, when you look at the game, you see kind of tale of two halves. But at times, that's been us through the current time. Is can we stack possessions well enough? Through a lot of the season, it's been back and forth. In this one, it was all on the front end. We were on the good side, all on the back end in the other. But you grow from that. Unfortunately, that one stung quite a bit, though.
Yeah, and I always said one of my cliches that I like to reference a lot, that shooting cures a lot of ills. And when shots are going in,
sure,
it can really kind of make up for maybe things that aren't going well in other areas. And anybody that knows me knows I'm not a big excuse guy, but I will give Charleston credit. They made some very difficult mid-range shots in that game.
Yeah, it was almost like a flashback in the second half to the semifinal last year in the tournament, where we're watching the McCormicks and the Palacios of the world just knocking down, even contested at times mid-range 17-footers, which are tough shots. But they found a way to get it done, and to them, that's who they are. That's part of their game. That's in their bag, and they were able to do some of those things because they got comfortable.
Okay, let's clarify a term that is used in sports. I'm too old. We never used this term when I was coaching, but you talked about on schedule, off schedule. Tell the viewers what that means.
We kind of look at it, and I think it's almost something, I'm a football fan. You and I have talked about we're both football fans. You kind of steal it from the game of football. Can you stay on schedule with downs? Well, basketball, we apply it the same way, no different than in our program. We talk special teams. And, on-off schedule is, are they getting to their spots when they're running their sets? Is the timing of everything in flow? Are they catching comfortable, which in turn puts the players they want to have the ball in their spots where they want to take the shots? I thought in the first half we did a nice job of keeping that from happening. In the second, they were starting to get there. So again, sometimes what we would consider a tough shot, that's something that they're looking to generate on schedule, and they were able to do so. Yeah,
they did make some tough shots. Of course, Carly McCutcheon gets in foul trouble.
For sure.
And then the thing that we all dread as head coaches, they pick up 4. Do you sit them or play them? And there's never a right or wrong answer for that.
Right.
You could have played her and she picked up her 5th in the next 30 seconds. Mm-hmm. You can sit her out and the avalanche continues. But when you're shorthanded, foul trouble doesn't help.
Correct.
And
Correct.
It's hard right now for you to weather that storm when you have to take a player of her caliber off the court. So you didn't get a chance to lick your wounds much because you knew you had another talented team coming in here. Following graduation on Saturday, West Virginia State comes up. Talk about the challenges of playing that system.
Yeah, it's kind of the polar opposite. So now you're going to see a team that's going to come at you with full court pressure for 40 minutes, and they're really going to try to dictate both on defense, but then also the way they hit the offensive glass. Number 1 rebounding team in the country because of the way they hit the old boards. They were averaging at the time almost 24 a game. So they're really, you talk about throwing punches in a game, they're coming out to do so. Our job was to have short memory, clean up some things. I thought we were very intentional as a staff with the way we try to teach breaking pressure, which made some minor tweaks, but just more so the verbiage to try to let our players settle in, and especially some of our young ones and newcomers. And I know it doesn't look like it on paper, but we did beat the pressure better than we anticipated doing. And it is a challenge getting ready for a team like West Virginia State. And I mentioned this going in to the game last week on the podcast. I believe it's Charles's best team that he's had. He's got veterans. He's got 7 or 8 seniors/super seniors. And there were times in that game where they really showed that.
Yeah, what I talked about with Dawn on the air is, and this system is, it's not exactly like Glenville's, but Charles coached at Glenville.
Right.
So he brings that system with him to West Virginia State. But that system, everyone talks about the three-point shooting. They always talk about forcing turnovers, but it's the offensive rebounding that kills people.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
You mentioned that. So
yeah, very physical, very physical.
That's a good point to make, that they're just relentless on the boards. And it's the same way, and this is just my observation, in this game, it wasn't so much the tale of two halves, it's the tale of which part of halves you're watching. And it was kind of a game of runs.
For sure.
And it got interesting down the stretch, but nevertheless, we wake up on the short end of an 80-76 game. Disappointing, but hey, we know you still got to get back in practice. You got to get better. So we got a game coming up this Friday. So tell us a little bit about the opponent.
Yeah, we play Sunday afternoon.
Sorry.
Sunday afternoon at 2. So those not traveling across the country to go enjoy Vegas with the men's team, we'd love to have people come out. We had another great crowd for West Virginia State. It was awesome. The atmosphere was incredible, second to none. But we got to play a Tiffin team that should be coming in hungry, much like we're coming in hungry. So our job has been to kind of focus on us for a few days and continue to get better, continue to work on cleaning things up as a program. But then we got to recharge and get ready to go here. So this break, though, where we get 6 or 7 days without a game, as much as you hate it because you got to try to keep them interested over winter break when there's not a lot going on at times, it's good for us. We needed the time to focus on us for sure.
Right, and a lot of times when you're coaching a veteran-laden team and everything's going right, you can approach this break differently. Obviously, you've got a lot of young kids, especially in the backcourt, so it does give you a chance to get on the practice court and talk about the things that you need to talk about. So let's look past that. When do the kids get to go home? How long will they be home?
Yeah, so they're basically free to go after the Tiffin game. So on Sunday they will head home. And they'll get about 8 days off, and then they'll get time to step away, recharge. Obviously, we've got some unique situations. We've got some players from distance, whether it be from overseas or Ari being all the way from Texas. So some of them will be taking trips with friends. Some of them will be going home, and some of them will be with their teammates, which is a good opportunity as well. But lucky to have the family feel that we do, because that takes care of itself naturally. But it'll be nice for the coaches too to kind of recharge. We will get on the road recruiting, so a lot of people think we can kind of shut it down for 8 days. That won't be the case. I think we'll be 3 or 4 recruiting trips over that 8-day stretch to try to pack it in and see our players and our future, if you will. And then they'll come back, and we got to get ready for a really big game coming back. And I'm still trying to figure out who's in charge of scheduling in this program, but for the record, it is me. We'll be bringing in the number 2 or 3 team in the country, most likely at the time, with Ashland, which will be a tremendous challenge, but one that we welcome and excited about on New Year's Eve.
Yep, New Year's Eve. So Ashland, a perennial power, a team that's played for all the marbles on several occasions. So that'll be a good one. And I encourage everybody to come out. It's going to be a great basketball game. And what else do you have to do on New Year's Eve at 2 in the afternoon? You're not going to parties at 9 at 10 at night time, so let's get out and watch some good basketball. But you sure your wife doesn't have things for you to do over that break instead of going recruiting?
I think there's probably a honey-do list that's going on in between the recruiting and the other stuff, but I'm sure she will keep me plenty busy. And Santa Claus is coming to town too, so that makes it interesting for us that are parents in the coaching world, that's for sure.
Well, don't forget to tune in and watch Hilltopper basketball. And even if you're making the Vegas trip and you're going out and watch the men, the game will be streamed. So please tune in Sunday at what time again?
Sunday at 2 p.m. Yeah.
Sunday at 2 p.m. Tiffin comes in. And then everyone enjoy your Christmas break. And we'll pick up Hilltopper men and women's basketball following the holidays. Coach Cooper, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Wish everybody a Merry Christmas. We'll talk to you after Christmas.
Disasters happen. Pick the team that takes care of them all. Powered by offices in Wheeling, Morgantown, and Pittsburgh, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration is ready to handle any size emergency at a moment's notice. We have the right people, knowledge, and equipment to respond 24 hours a day.
I'm Kyle Cooper. When disaster strikes your home or business, tell your insurance provider you prefer the restoration company the Hilltoppers call, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration.
From humble beginnings in 1837, West Liberty University has been home to thousands of students. Whether you're a recent high school graduate or looking to complete a college degree later in life, starting your educational career at West Liberty University will be the catalyst for your future. This is a place where you will discover who you are and where you belong, surrounded by lifelong friends and a supportive faculty and staff. Start your journey home at westliberty.edu.